Eye on You, a new show produced by students from the University of Massachusetts Lowell. I'm Bridget Driscol, and I'll be your host for the next hour. The focus of today's show is women in the field of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Joining us today, we have student Mark Stern, criminal justice major, and also student Cassie Robico, cultural studies major. They'll be asking some questions from our faculty participants, world-renowned leaders in the field of nanotechnology. They have been formally dubbed nano princesses, nano queens, and goddesses of little things. Please welcome Dr. Julie Chen, specialist in mechanical engineering, Dr. Joey Mead, expert in plastics engineering, and also Dr. Carol Barry, leader in plastics engineering. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. And to kick off our questioning, we're going to start with Cassie. Would you like to ask the ladies some questions?
Certainly, Bridget. I'd like to preface my first question with a statistic recently in the Boston Globe. According to the National Science Foundation, women account for less than 8% of engineering faculty at United States universities. And if you consider full-time, tenured professors, that number drops to 3%. With that said, I'd like to ask you ladies, who or what has inspired each of you to become involved in the field predominantly employed by men? I'm going to start.
Sure. It's a very good question because I think it is very important to have role models, and I think a lot of what my interest in engineering came from my parents, because both my parents were involved in math and science, and so it wasn't such a strange thing for me to be interested in math and science also.
I think it would also be my parents, in particular my father always encouraged me to do well in school, and I had a wonderful chemistry professor that inspired me to go into chemistry, and then further followed that into the polymer field by one of the college professors who taught a subject that I just found fascinating, and so that encouraged me to go into that area.
And again, my father particularly encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to do. So I was good at math and science, and he didn't care what I did, but he just wanted us to all excel. So he actually got 3 engineers out of 6 children.
Wow.
And 2 of those are women. I have a younger sister who's a civil engineer.
Wow. Can I ask you, how are you connected in the field of, so you pretty much stated that your family and teachers kind of inspired you. Do you remember, was there one, particular project or one incident that sticks out more than the others from, when you were growing up?
Should I
Sure.
start again?
Sure.
Okay.
Dr. Chen.
Probably the earliest thing that I can remember related actually not to engineering, because in most cases, well, at least when I grew up, you didn't take engineering in high school. So again, it was a chemistry class, and again, I also had a wonderful chemistry teacher, Mrs. Misch, and they used to show those old chemistry movies with the guy in the white lab coat and the glasses, which would be pretty boring, except that Mrs. Misch would every once in a while start screaming from the back of the room and get really excited about what was going on, and so that's what really piqued my interest in science in general.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I guess I couldn't point to one specific thing because I think it takes a long period of time to get to be interested, but again, I think it was the high school chemistry teacher who was just so enthused about everything and really encouraged us.
And then Dr. Barry, I was wondering, I understand that your father was a firefighter?
Yes.
And so how did he, how did your family get 3 engineers?
He liked to build things. So one of the first things I can remember him building is a septic tank, basically for the washing machine. And he dug it out, and he put the blocks in a certain way, and he put it back in because the washing machine was doing too many diapers, consequently it flooded. And from then he went on to projects, and we were always part of the projects. And so one of the things I can remember, and I was coming home from work, and I was still living at home, and I was out of college by this point, is my youngest sister hauling the shingles up to the roof because he decided to re-roof the garage, and she was part of that project.
Oh, no.
Now, you've all turned to something that happened in high school. Did you feel like at the time you were one girl in a group of boys interested in that area?
It wasn't not the case in my high school. I was fortunate that there was a group of students, girls and boys, that were interested in common things, the science, the math, and also the sports. So it was a good group of people that did a lot of different things together, and so I didn't feel isolated at all in high school.
I would agree. In high school, there were a lot of women interested in the area and did very well in the classes. I think the further up you went, the fewer and fewer there were.
And I'd have to say the same thing. There was, in high school, there was a group of students who probably 35 or 40 students who were in the same classes and stayed with the high-level math, high-level science, and encouraged each other. And that was pretty much a 50-50 split.
Oh, that's interesting. So do you think it became more difficult as you moved into college? Or, well, not for you ladies, apparently, but for, I mean, where do you think or might there be some problems that arise for women entering the field? Would that be in college, or do you think it begins in high school?
I think, and I'm the oldest of the queen, Nano Queens.
Well, you look like you're the youngest.
Okay, I'm the oldest, and I think one of the things is that although this group was 50-50, many of those women did not choose engineering. They chose medicine, they chose chemistry, they chose some of the other biology and some of those areas where there are more women traditionally. And so not all of those people ended up taking technical careers. And so I actually started as a pre-med major.
Oh.
And ended up in a different direction completely.
Well, I started out in chemistry in college also, and I think one of the things when you go through high school, you don't know about engineering. There aren't any engineering classes, so you're never introduced. So all you really know are the science and math. So once you get to college is where you start to even see the engineering programs, but before then you're really not exposed to them.
Okay. I think before Mark's question, I wanted to ask one more question. So this kind of leading up to today, to the nanotechnology and your success in that field, for the audience who doesn't know anything about that, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing now and the research centers that you've...
Some of the work that we're doing is really looking at manufacturing processes at the nanoscale. One thing Lowell does very well is manufacturing and scale up for industry. So the things that we're looking at are really trying to take the laboratory 1 and 2 and look at processes and new ways of assembling them and new manufacturing processes to make some of these wonderful things that we think nanotechnology will deliver.
It looks like they changed the control system on them a little bit.
What are some of the products, in case we had this discussion earlier, like what is nanotechnology, or what are some, I said, what small things, very small, think of nano iPod. So what are some of the groundbreaking new products that nanotechnology, is utilized in?
Right now it's a lot of particles that are in the market that are being put into other applications. So there's new sunscreens that are being used that give you better coverage. And this is particularly, these were pioneered down in Australia, a lot of it, because of the hole in the ozone layer. You're looking at a lot of particles going into plastics, which we call them nanocomposites or polymer nanocomposites. These are showing up in automobile panels, outside panels, inside panels, to stiffen them with much less filler. You're seeing a lot of it showing up in some coatings, the nano pants, for example. This is basically a coating in which you've got little fine particles that are or whiskers that stick up off the pants and basically mimic peach fuzz, to prevent stains. And then they're putting particles again into